Welcome to this explainer on the mighty Mekong River. When we think of great rivers, our minds usually jump straight to the Amazon or the Nile, but the Mekong is a geographic titan in its own right. It's an incredibly vibrant force of nature that connects 6 different nations, sustains tens of millions of lives, and actually boasts the most concentrated aquatic biodiversity per hectare of any river on Earth. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover Mother of Waters, from Tibet to the sea, a biodiversity superpower, the engine of Southeast Asia, trade, transit, and history, and finally, threats to the Mekong. Let's get right into it.
Part 1, Mother of Waters. We're looking at the sheer scale of this transboundary giant.
So just how big is it? Well, the Mekong stretches an estimated 4,909 kilometers. That makes it the third longest river in all of Asia. And it pumps out a staggering 475 cubic kilometers of water every single year. To put that journey into perspective, it winds its way all the way from the icy peaks of the Tibetan Plateau down to the tropical South China Sea. It is a transboundary river in every sense of the word, flowing right through China, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and finally Vietnam. Because it crosses so many borders, it actually goes by quite a few different names across the cultures it touches, which really highlights its universal role as a life-giving force. In China, it's the Lancongjiang, meaning the turbulent green river. In Thai and Lao, it translates to the Mother of Waters. The Khmer call it the Great River. And down in Vietnam, where it branches out into a massive delta, it has this beautiful name, the Nine Dragons River. I just love that. Each culture uniquely recognizes its power and what it provides. Moving on to Section 2, From Tibet to the Sea. Let's trace this incredibly complex geographical journey. The personality of this river completely transforms as it flows. It starts off with a massive, precipitous 4,500-meter drop in the upper basin in China, rushing violently through these incredibly tight, steep gorges. But then it hits the famous Golden Triangle, where China, Myanmar, and Laos meet, and it just relaxes. It widens out, slows way down, and as it hits the flat Cambodian floodplain, it transforms the landscape into a sprawling, fertile delta. Now, this flat terrain down in Cambodia sets up a completely wild hydrological puzzle during the wet season. Think about it. How exactly does a river flow backwards? Gravity dictates that water goes down to the sea, right? Well, the Mekong's sheer force actually defies that logic in a spectacular way. Here is what happens with the Tonle Sap flow reversal. When the monsoon hits and the Mekong floods, the volume of water is so unbelievably massive and it rises so fast that it actually overpowers its own tributary, the Tonle Sap. The water literally has nowhere to go but backward. It pushes straight back up into the Great Lake, swelling it to several times its normal dry season size. It's like the whole region is taking a deep breath. This incredible flow reversal is the absolute heartbeat of the entire ecosystem. Which brings us to Section 3, a biodiversity superpower. We are talking about the world's most concentrated aquatic biodiversity. The numbers here are just mind-blowing. We're looking at 20,000 plant species, 1,200 kinds of birds, 800 reptiles and amphibians, 430 mammals, and 850 species of freshwater fish alone. The greater Mekong subregion is an absolute hotbed for biological discovery. Get this, between 1997 and 2015, scientists were discovering an average of 2 completely new species every single week. Every week! And the river is famous for its true river monsters, like a recently caught 300-kilogram giant freshwater stingray. But we also have to face the reality that this megafauna is incredibly vulnerable right now. Take the rare Irrawaddy dolphin, for example. Tragically, we are down to just 85 individuals left. It's a very stark reminder of just how fragile this whole system really is. Okay, Section 4, the engine of Southeast Asia. Let's look at an inland fishery which is truly like no other. Beyond the incredible wildlife, this river is the undisputed economic engine for Southeast Asia. The lower Mekong produces around 4.5 million tons of fish and aquatic products every year. That gives the fishery a total economic value of up to $7 billion annually. $7 billion! For millions of rural people living in poverty along the basin, this open access fishery is their ultimate safety net. If the crops fail, they know the river is there to provide food and income. And the human reliance on this water is just staggering. Take Cambodia, for instance. A massive 80% of the entire population's annual protein intake comes directly from fish caught right here in the Mekong system. 80%. There's really no backup plan here, no alternative food source that could easily replace this massive volume of animal protein for the folks in Cambodia and Laos. This river literally feeds nations.
Moving to Section 5, Trade, Transit, and History, Connecting Communities and Continents.
People have relied on this river as a conduit for civilization for thousands of years. We can trace this all the way back to the ancient Indianized Khmer culture of Funan in the Delta during the 1st century. Fast forward to the 1860s with the first systematic French Mekong expedition, right up to 1995 with the establishment of the Mekong River Commission and modern commercial pacts. Now, those early French explorers, they found the river incredibly tough to navigate because of fierce rapids and waterfalls. But today, the nations sharing the river are heavily focused on turning it into a streamlined commercial corridor. It's an absolutely booming trade route today. Over 300,000 tons of goods are shipped annually just between Kunming and Bangkok alone. With new deepwater ports like Khai Mep in Vietnam, massive container ships can sail directly to Europe and the United States. It has completely transformed into a central hub of international commerce. Which leads us directly into our final section, Section 6, Threats to the Mekong, Navigating Modern Challenges. The push for rapid economic development is bringing some major changes to the river's fragile ecosystem. Check this out. As of 2024, there are 371 dams across the basin. That includes 121 hydropower plants and 230 irrigation dams. Now, to be clear, these projects are generating much-needed electricity and irrigation, which are huge drivers for lifting populations out of poverty. But on the flip side, they are fundamentally altering the river's natural flood pulse. By trapping all that sediment and changing the seasonal water levels, the very mechanics that trigger the Tonle Sap flow reversal and sustain those massive fisheries we talked about are being severely impacted. On top of that, there's the Navigation Improvement Plan, running from 2015 to 2025. The goal here is to boost trade by actively dredging the river and actually demolishing rocky outcrops. They want to make the river navigable all year round for massive 500-ton commercial boats, essentially prioritizing commercial capacity over these complex natural habitats. And the forecasts are pretty alarming. According to the Mekong River Commission, the combination of climate-linked droughts and dam infrastructure could lead to a devastating 80% total depletion of fish by the year 2040. An 80% drop. We're looking at projected declines of 55% in Thailand, 50% in Laos, 35% in Cambodia, and 30% in Vietnam. Think back to what we said earlier. 80% of Cambodia's protein comes from this river. The socioeconomic fallout of these numbers is absolutely staggering. We are pointing toward a potential food security crisis in the lower basin. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a really tough question. How do we balance rapid economic development with preserving the world's most concentrated aquatic biodiversity? What exactly does the future hold for the tens of millions of people who rely on the Mekong as their literal lifeblood? This tension between the very real need for power and trade and the absolute necessity of protecting an ecosystem that organically feeds nations, well, that is the defining challenge of the Mekong today. Thank you so much for joining me as we explored the incredible, complex world of the Mekong River. Catch you next time.